Begin to close your eyes down with me. We're going to start this whole thing with 3 big deep breaths. So on your next breath in, I want you to take a really big deep breath in through your nose. Try to fill it all the way up. Brief hold at the top, a big open mouth exhale. Let your breath go. 2 more. Brief hold, let it go. 1 last one, big deep breath. Brief hold, let it all go out. Tuck your chin down towards your chest. And whenever you're ready, blink your eyes up. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Eminem.
I know. I kind of love this.
I do too.
It's like Emily and Emily here for action.
That's right.
I want to just really jump into things, but you are an incredible therapist, but not only a therapist, but also an unbelievable content creator with everything that you're doing right now. And I love the transitions that you're moving through in this chapter and season of your life and your career. And I know that there's a lot going on in this world, but I want to kind of start a little bit further back with how you really got into this work. How did you get into becoming a therapist and then moving into being a content creator?
I don't know if I've shared this with you. I never planned on being a therapist. Do you know that?
No.
This was not the path.
I didn't know
This wasn't the plan. This
no
wasn't the
clue.
dream. Even 5 years ago, and I was in grad school. This wasn't it. And I share this with people. I share it with my clients because I think we assume that everyone goes from point A to point B and they've been diligent and motivated and clear the whole time. And that is certainly one way that people move through the world, right? But that's not how I move through the world. It is always a surprise where I end up. So that's the short answer. Surprise.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to be here. I probably won't be here forever, right? Like I'm somebody who is open to the transformation. However, it tracks. Like when I look back at the path and zoom out, I go, okay, I see how I got here. Backgrounds in theater, performing arts. That is what I did. Professionally, personally, I had a woman-centered theater company here in Dallas, and really the effort there was to create a safe enough space to create. That led me to graduate school to pursue drama therapy, and really I was just curious about the intersectionality of arts and mental health, because it is, the arts are an embodied practice, and so much of your stuff comes up when you're performing or directing or dancing, right? Like they're so closely tied. But I assumed I would be on set, in theater, bringing mental health support there, not seeing clients in private practice. So it's the way it's turned out for now. And I still am engaged in the arts community, but total surprise. Total surprise.
So what was the kind of initial like ignite into you to be like, oh, actually this might be the path for like a hot second?
Ooh, what's coming to me is in drama therapy, there is this concept of witnessing. So you're not an audience member, but you're witnessing someone when they're performing or giving a monologue or whatever they're doing. Like we are holding space, we are being witnesses. And I think that's when it clicked for me, was being lucky enough to witness people's stories and vulnerability and transformation, and 2 steps backward, 3 steps forward, that I go, oh, I really feel called, because it feels so special to let someone see you, and for people to let me see them. I was hooked. What an honor, you know? And so I think that was something I was already doing, as when I was directing or producing, you're bearing witness in a lot of ways. And so the transition, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. A therapist is holding a lot of space and is your audience member in a lot of ways.
No, I totally agree with that. And what I think is really interesting about that is that as you continue to go on your own journey, you're realizing being a witness for other people starts to become a mirror for you in certain seasons and chapters of life, which I find fascinating, because what I've realized is moving into this kind of like wellness, mental health space, I look at people and they will share their stories or share their struggles, or I see something in them and I'm like, oh, that's me. And I can so resonate with the people that come into your life. The community that comes into your life will be such a reflection in that way. So as far as moving from drama therapy now to one-on-one clients in a private practice, I love that you're doing these walk and talks, essentially. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because moving from a place where in the arts, you're on stage, you're performing, there's not a mask, but essentially a character that you have to put on. Yeah. And for walk and talks, I feel like there's such a dichotomy in that, because it's like, there's no mask. You're just walking with someone, having that distraction of walking, but you have to communicate really what's going on. So tell me, how did you come up with that? How did that come about?
Yeah. So in graduate school, I was an intern this is what therapists do. You go and you intern at another practice or a hospital, and the practice offered walk and talk, but they had it as a footnote, and they were like, nobody really takes us up on it. COVID hits, and I go, that's genius idea for so many reasons. People did not want to be in an office space. 2, people were because of like being immunocompromised, being concerned about COVID, wanted to be outside. 3, I was just starting my business, so I didn't have a lot of cash for overhead to have an office space. So I didn't really know how magical and impactful it was going to be when I started it out. I just thought, this is a practical thing for me to do. We're going on hour-long walks with our friends and families during COVID anyway. Let me make a business out of this. And then it worked out. Like you're saying, there is you're being witnessed in a different way on a walk. It can feel a little safer because you're not sitting at a couch and staring at someone. It feels familiar. You've gone on a walk with someone before. And then just what our mind does during that time, there's that bilateral stimulation. So it is distracted in some way. That I think keeps us regulated. So in an office space, this is me jumping to this, but like in an office space, you sitting here like this, sitting with all of your feelings, we talk about getting flooded. So I've become so flooded with my emotion, or so distanced from my emotion, that the therapist's job really is to like get you into that space of how do we feel and think at the same time. When you're on a walk, it's a lot easier. Your body's already moving. You're not in that like fight or flight because you have something to do. Anyway, I love walk and talk. I think it's great. It attracts people who are not like typically like first time therapy goers, because it doesn't feel as vulnerable.
Interesting.
They don't feel like they're being observed or witnessed or perceived in the same way. But for me, just being outside and finding the accommodation for myself in work too. How do I want to work? Going on a walk with people. It sounds way better.
What I love about that is, as you are creating your own practice, you're doing something different. You're doing something a little bit more, quote unquote, untraditional. You're not going the route of getting the office, setting those time hours during the day, whatever, and then making people fit into your schedule. It's very much of a fluid way to run a business. How does that feel? And is that something that you expected going into this space?
It's who I am. Right? Like, I didn't expect to be on this path, but I just kind of, who I am is someone who's going to trust and follow along. So no, it doesn't surprise me that I've done something less conventional. However, and I'm sure you can relate to this, anybody can, I still want to fit myself in that box. If I make the perfect plan, if I look at the person who is so successful doing this, then I'm going to get where they are. And it's conversations like this that remind me, no, when I listen to myself, my intuition, that's where the magic is happening, because it's authentic. But I have to remind myself of that, because it's normal to go, oh my gosh, I have to have the office and I have to have the perfect setup before I can do X, Y, Z. In my life, it continues to prove that's not always the case.
Oh, and man, let me tell you how much I understand that. I feel like the perfectionism as being an entrepreneur, whatever route that entrepreneurship journey takes you, is such a fascinating one, because not only is it a mirror of who you are, but it also starts to begin to, once again, use that terminology of reflection of how you show up continues to reflect on how you start to move through this life, and that it's okay if the inside and the outside don't match up for a little bit, but then they're going to eventually match up at some point, because life is going to life and force you to become that authentic self, lack thereof words. I don't love the word authentic.
let's talk about that. You asked me, we don't have to jump there now, but you asked
No,
that
I love
question
that.
of like other therapy speak or things that I like really rub up against. Authenticity is that, just the way that we use that language, as if being authentic is easy, as if it's without consequence too. We say it as if there's no risk to being your authentic self, right? There is. Also, my authentic self could change by the time this podcast comes out. I could have a totally different perspective on what I'm saying right now. That doesn't mean I was being inauthentic. It means I've learned something new. Anyway, sorry, just jump to like inauthentic.
No, I love that. And I kind of want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit, because as we're talking about this is kind of the conversations that I want to continue to have more of, because these are the real conversations at the end of the day. Like, how many times do I hear people giving me permission that like, oh, it's okay to be yourself, but like, is it? And like you mentioned, like, what are the risks that comes with that? Because if you grow up in a certain, I mean, obviously growing up in the South, there's a certain way to be raised or whatever. And now we're in this world where the timeline that thought we were supposed to be given to ourselves at 25, 30, 35, whatever the age is, of like, oh, you have to be married, have to have kids, have to have the white picket house, whatever at this time. And like, then you retire and then you travel and do all the things. And it's like, well, what if my timeline looks different? And like, that's not on me, is it? I don't know. So let's talk about that. I want to talk about that authenticity.
Yeah.
What have you noticed as far as working with individuals that are maybe going an untraditional route, or notice that they're not on the path that they thought they wanted to be on, and have to come back to themselves or have to find that authentic self? Have you noticed a certain trend when you work with people that kind of go through, maybe it's a quarter life crisis, or it's a situation or circumstance, and then they're like, oh, I haven't been living the way I want to live?
Yeah. I hate the saying nobody knows what they're doing, because I think a lot of us actually know more than we think we do. So that feels like a wash. Nobody knows what we're doing. That gives us a path. You actually have a lot of lived wisdom and experience that does inform the decisions that you make. That being said, when I am working with people, I don't know one person, and I see 20 clients a week, that would say they are where they thought they would be, or that don't feel behind in some sort of way. It is such a universal experience and thought. And that makes me go, what are we comparing ourselves to then? What is this framework of white picket fence and married by 30 and babies by 30? Like, what is it then if everybody, a lot of people, feel behind, or that they're missing the mark? It's unfair. And then also to your point about finding what's authentic to you, that is, if someone is on that path of, I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z by this time, and they come into my office and we find like that's not actually the case, there can be grief with that, because you're grieving expectations. Even if they were put on you by somebody else, there's grief. That's okay. We can process that. There's also excitement. There's also anxiety. What the heck do I do now if it wasn't going to be this thing? But often we work to get to the root of whose voice was that? Was it yours? You talk about authenticity. Most of the time, that voice that said you needed to do this, that, and the other, it wasn't. It was a parent, a teacher, some person that you've put on a pedestal. And I think that becomes okay then. When we realize that's not our voice, we go, okay, I can let that go.
Ooh, I love that. So how do you start that process of one, finding those things, to getting to the root of it? And then also, how do we work through that? Like, how do we even let that go and then start rebuilding what that authentic voice is, or my true voice, versus maybe a voice that's been someone else's for maybe a long period of time that I didn't know whose it was?
Yeah. Discovering that you weren't living in your authenticity, maybe other people's voices, that was the path that you were doing, can be heartbreaking. It can feel really confusing, right? Because you really, I think we have to trust our past selves also, that in the moment, maybe at 25, I really did want to get married. And at 27 and 28, and like, she is not wrong or bad or silly for wanting that. You just have new information now. And I think that's the way I frame it with clients, that feeling of, what have I done? I've wasted my time. Did you waste your time, or did you get new information, right? And that's authentic, is listening to yourself in those moments and going, the information I have now is leading me in a different direction. Follow that. Because the information you had at 25 was limited, right? It's new. That's what we can do to be authentic, is just continue to listen. And like you mentioned earlier, the fluidity.
Oh, and I love that. So with, let's say, clients that are starting to learn their intuition, because we've been in this space for so long now that intuition starts to come as very natural at this point. Sure. But a couple years ago, at least for me, that was not the case. I did not know what my intuition was. I didn't know whose voices were in my head telling me that I should and I have to, and I still struggle with those things. How do you start to listen to that intuition?
You have to get in your body, right? We're not listening to the voices in our head. We're not listening to the anxiety. And I think it feels different. However, guiding people to body-based work when they come in going like, I'm going to come on a therapy couch and I'm going to talk because I want to speak and be heard. There is value in that. I will not knock it. And I don't think our intuition lives in our head. I think it lives in our body. For me, that practically starts with a body map. So we will draw out a body and we will name feelings or emotions, or maybe even in a conversation like this. Where do you notice tension, tingling sensation? Does this actually live in a place in your body? That's how I got there, was realizing I hold a lot of anger in my arms. And then so now when my arms light up, that gives me the information, like, you're really mad about this. Because I grew up in the South where being angry is unproductive, it's not ladylike, it's not polite. And so I kind of just bypassed my anger. Anger is information. So when I was able to go, oh, my arms are tingling, I know that's my anger. What information is this situation giving me? My body got to be the entry point into my mind and my intuition. It's not easy work and people hate it, right? You hate being in your body. Ew, gross. And also that is where our information and intuition lies. Or in the mind-body connection. Is that what you would say?
Oh my gosh, well, both. Because at the end of the day, I mean, since I feel like we both have similar backgrounds, but totally different at the same time. Like, I don't have that scientific background or a therapeutic background in the very traditional rooted way. But I totally agree with you in that everything is in the body, because if you can't find it in your head, it's not in your head.
It's not in your head.
It's not in your head. And I think that goes to that point where we spoke earlier, where you were mentioning it's normal. Everything is normal. And I find that so often in breathwork practices where people will come up to me after and they're like, this happened to me and this happened to me and this happened to me. And I'm like, that's normal. And they're like, what do you mean that's normal? And it's like, everything is normal. And I think that goes to your point of that mind-body connection of, I might feel anger in my arms, but you may feel anger in the bottom of your throat. You might feel sadness in the pit of your stomach. And everyone's going to look and feel different in that way. But to your point, if you're only listening to that, whatever that voice in your head is it going to lead you to the body?
Probably not. Maybe, but usually not. Usually it's just this like ticker I talk about, or this scanner. If I can scan through my thoughts one more time, then I'll know how I feel. Ha ha ha. Right? You can't. I'm laughing because it's like, no, you're not going to think your way into feeling. You have to feel your way into feeling. It can be very scary and uncomfortable and also necessary.
And I love that, to your point, because I have done so many years of therapy to help support like more challenging seasons of my life. And I've sat down on a couch multiple times with incredible, very powerful, like just very rooted therapists. And they're like, oh, you know what's going on. I mean, they'll always say, oh, you're very self-aware. So like, why are you here? And it's like, no. And we'll just talk. And then I don't know how many months later I look back and I'm like, did I really get anything out of it?
Yeah.
I really don't know. And I feel like not everyone is supported by talk therapy.
100%.
So how can you help support other people in different ways? Or how have you seen with the therapeutic background that you have, what are other ways to help yourself move through maybe more challenging chapters or seasons of life, or maybe when people realize my mind and my body are not connected, or that voice is not mine.
Yeah.
Or when I'm off whatever timeline I thought I was going to be on, and now I catch myself on a different timeline.
What do we do?
What do we do about that?
What do we do? Well, going back to the talk therapy piece, I would recommend everyone find an EMDR or an IFS therapist. They are like more in line with that mind-body connection and getting you out of your head and back into like the whole shebang. Because you're right. For some people, I think talk therapy is great for people who don't have anyone to talk to, who struggle communicating with themselves and others, right? Like, and that if it's trauma-based, then go to a trauma therapist. But, you know, we've all dated the guy who's like emotionally, like cannot communicate his feelings and cannot communicate his emotions. So going to a talk therapist where you practice that in that session, and then you can take it out to other relationships. Great, wonderful. For people who you already go, I already know what's going on and how do I transform? How do I change it? My first question is like, what about your life currently do you want to look differently? Is it the rumination or what's out here that you would like to look differently? Sometimes the answer is, I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. That's okay. But guiding people into their bodies, I think, is the therapist's job. Like, I'm biased in that, but I think that's the therapist's job. We can't look at someone and say, just rearrange your thoughts, right? Like, if we could, that would be easy. We wouldn't have a job. Mm-hmm. Just don't think that. Mm-hmm. There's a really important reason our brain brings things up. If you're looking at it from a parts lens, which is internal family systems, we're made up of many parts. And so if a part is showing up in your life that is the part of you that's like anxious about the timeline, we get to know the part. Where does that part actually live in your body? What does it look like? How old is it? What soothing does it need? How can we honor that part of you? Really helping, that's where I start to get people in their body, is understanding what parts of them show up, so that they don't feel like I am just this person who's anxious about the future. There's a part of you that's anxious about the future. There's also a part of you that like really knows. How do we locate that in your body? Where do you want it to live? Does it feel far away? Can we get it closer? The embodied practice that I like to do with drama therapy is we literally put the part that we want to play in our body, like a role. Mm-hmm. The confident one, the one who trusts herself. Give me a monologue. What does she say? Hi, I'm the confident one. And I know everything's good enough. And I know I'm on the path. We don't just talk about it and, oh, yes, I'm a confident person. I make you stand up and act it out. You have to get it into your body, right?
Oh, wow.
You can't just think about, I should be confident, right? No, practice it now. Because it's going to be way easier to practice it now in my office than it is when you go to your job interview. You've never practiced it before. Or when you're having that hard conversation with the boy that won't text you back. Or when you're XYZ, right? We practice it. We rehearse it in the therapy session. That is how I like to get people into their body. It's also something you can do at home. You can do that with me as your witness. But how do you at home, listeners right now, right? If there's a part of you that you feel like you would like to have closer, speak from that part of you. How does she move in the world? How does she sit? Place her in your body before it's an emergency and she needs to, you know what I mean? Like, let's get to know her a little bit first.
The way that helps me notice certain things about myself, it's like, there's a lot of times where I'm always like wanting to grow into the better version of myself and get into that more embodied version, higher self, whatever. And there's some days where I'm like, that's not her. She is not present. Yeah. And then there are some days that it feels fairly aligned. And so having to kind of fake it till you make it. What do you think about that type of dialogue when you hear, oh, okay, just do it before you feel it? Do you think that is supportive, or?
I think it's easier said than done. And once again, I think we say fake it till you make it in kind of high stakes situations. So perhaps it's fake it till you make it while you're putting on your makeup that morning, or having the conversation with your mom, or sending that email, so that you're building that muscle and that window of tolerance. We're expanding the window of tolerance for being somebody new, right? Who takes more risk, who is more confident, who is assertive, who speaks her mind, who knows her truth. Don't start at, 10. You can go for it, but I think the fake it, we get bad information, or we get just fake it till you make it. I don't think it's totally bad totally bad advice. I just think it requires, that requires rehearsal and practice and mindfulness in the small moments. Or else then you're not going to feel successful if you go, I thought I was faking it till I made it. And I feel like an imposter, right? Imposter syndrome's huge. Yeah, you are kind of an imposter right now. You just are. Or you're not, I mean, what do you think about this? Because imposter syndrome is one that comes up a lot in therapy speak.
So much.
I don't know are we imposters? Should you be pretending to be something you're not? If you don't have a 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure business, like I totally believe in acting and dressing for the job you want, but also that's not authentic. There's a liability in that. If you're not prepared for that type of work, you haven't done the work to get there, you might actually be an imposter. That might be why you're feeling like an imposter. And that's the crux, right? Are you an imposter right now? Maybe. Or are you not? Do you actually have the wisdom to back up what you're doing? You know what I mean?
You know what I love about this is because a conversation I've been having a lot recently is that when people blow up on social media, depending on whatever their creative voices, whatever business or whatever they are wanting to sell to the general public, if there is anything. And, you know, there are some people that blow up, that go viral, and then they meet themselves in a predicament where, oh, I'm not prepared. But then there is the more slow creator that takes years and years and years to get to where they go. And then they have their lucky shot, or they finally blow up after that, let's say like 7 years or whatever that kind of, they say the energetic tie is every 7 years for things.
Cool.
And so it's like after that certain point, then they blow up and it's like, oh, I was ready way before this time, but now I can really prep myself for me being able to show up exactly how I want to here because I have the years of preparation versus I went viral and I took advantage of the time that I got here and now I have to show up in a way that I'm not prepared for. When you notice those two things, do you see a difference in between how people have to show up in those ways? Whereas they're actively having to work through whatever mindsets that they have or whatever it is versus the creator that took, let's say, those 7 years to get ready and whatever things that they were saying about themselves during that time or period of growth.
Yeah. I don't want to make a blanket statement, right? But like, I can speak for myself in that. I started a theater company in 2017. I thought that I was ready for that. We put out excellent marketing. The external was so shiny, right? Like it looked wonderful. It was new. It was in Dallas. People were giving us spaces and money and funding, and it just was it felt so it. Emily, we had no business doing that because I will say we were not good stewards of the money that came in. We didn't know what to do. Like, we didn't abuse what was given to us, but like, we didn't use it in a way that I would know now, 7 years, right? Like 2017 to now, 8 years later, how I know how to run a business, how I know how to maintain and grow relationships. So it's a yes. I think there's a space for both, but right, like I think we do. I would love to have another chance at creating a theater company in life, knowing what I know now versus getting like hot really quick and then having to like make sure it all looks good and is good when we weren't ready for that yet. So in my own life experience, I also think as a creator, I've been creating for 4 or 5 years now. I have a very small following on TikTok, like TikTok standards, very small. However, I feel confident. I know how to talk to brands now, right? I feel confident in the community that I've created. I feel confident in the voice that I have and why I want to show up. If anyone wants to blow me up overnight, like I will take it, right? Like that's one path, but I do think there's value. And I think as we get older as women, I'm like that wisdom of like, showing up every day, knowing that like I give myself a year with projects now. Well, Emily, what you're doing, right? Like this was not overnight. It's been years. And this will also be the years creating podcasts, having your events, your like beautiful, your beautiful marketing and merch, right? Like this is, right, it looks great, but also it's not just smoke and mirrors. You've spent the time to do this, right?
And to your point, there is something about things taking their time to continue to take that action of, okay, even if I don't feel like her today or that version of myself I want to be, I'm going to act as if I were her today in those small moments so that I don't have to panic when I have to be her and I'm not ready to be that version.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like I've been working on a book for a year and a half. And when I actually audit the last year and a half, I am not acting as an author, you know? So it makes sense that my book's not finished. And I think there's moments of being honest with ourselves about that too. I'm a manifesting generator, so I do a lot of things in a lot of different directions. And then I look and go, well, I have nothing to show for it. Yeah, because number one, like that may not be my path. Me might be someone who just wants to taste and experience a lot of things and have nothing to show for it. That's okay. And also, if I had been consistent every day with writing or my art projects or my t-shirt design, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to be honest with yourself about what you're actually doing to get the life you want, not just look around and be like, well, I'm not getting it. Were you consistent? You don't have to arrive. You just have to show up, you know? That might sound dumb, but do you know what I mean?
No, it doesn't at all, because the biggest... So I went to Wim Hof in January. I went to Mexico, down to Mexico City, but then ended up in the woods of Mexico for like 5 days. I really struggled. But the one thing that I came out of it with is that life is simple, but simple doesn't mean that it's easy. And to me, that was everything. And once again, the conversation I feel like I've been having a lot lately with people is that the power of consistency is everything, but it's actually way more important to be consistent in those small moments than it is in those big moments where you feel like you have to show up in a certain way. It's like, no, but if you're showing up consistently for yourself in the tiny moments when the door is closed, when nobody's looking, then you're going to show up in a way that you don't have to be as performative or put on something because you're already it inside of you.
That's exactly it.
And going through that, I don't know, that shit, that imposter syndrome, all of those stories that you were talking about when you're talking about internal family systems of, okay, where is that coming from? Let's come back to the body. Oh, I love that.
Well, like I was working with someone this week who was making the decision, has been on this path of like, I'm going to go to grad school and I'm going to do X. I'm going to do X. I'm going to do X. And then we sit in session and they're like, I kind of want to do Y. I kind of want to do Y. And so we were able to explore that, like, that is because you got new information
but the permission that it's okay to change your mind
huge
is something that like, I still am trying to understand myself, and something that I'm even personally working through, because there are certain projects that I've worked on that I'm like, is this actually aligned anymore? Because it was kind of like we were speaking to earlier, like a couple years ago, that could have been actually super aligned, but now things have changed. The world is changing. And like, if the world's changing, it's more than okay for me to change my own mind, which I don't know why sometimes we feel like we need permission, or at least the people that I'm around feel like they need that permission outside of themselves to be like, oh, it's okay. Like I can go a different route.
Because we equate changing our minds with failure. And I don't think that when we change our mind, that is because we failed at something. Not every time, right? Like, and why do we do that? I changed my mind, so that means this is going to be embarrassing, or someone's going to know that I didn't like meet X mark. And that is more often than not in my lived experience, that's not the case. I've changed my mind because I got new information, like you're saying. How great to be able to change our mind. I think of generations who didn't change their mind, and I don't think they're happier, you know? I don't.
Yeah. Well, and what I would love to know from a therapeutic perspective is, why do we associate change with failure? And then also, why are we so afraid of failing?
Shame.
Yeah.
Why do we associate change and failure? I'm thinking about that for my own life. Like, why do I think of it that way? Because you don't really learn that like so many things change as you're a kid and growing up that don't necessarily connotate failure. I wonder if it starts in like college, if people who go to college, do you know what I mean? Like, I thought I was going down this path, and that's so early on to choose a path. I thought I was going to go down this path and be this major, and then I experienced life and I've told everybody. I don't know. Why do we? I think therapeutically, I don't have an answer for that other than the shame of the perceived opinions of others about us changing our minds.
And I think that weight is heavy though too. And I'm not necessarily sure if we all understand how much weight we give other people's word or expectation or thought or perception of who we are, if that weight ends up being a lot heavier than we want it to be.
Yeah. Well, and going back to something that we mentioned earlier too, I give myself permission to change my mind about what I said on a TikTok I made 3 years ago. People will comment on stuff from years ago, and I rewatch those videos and go, oh my gosh, I don't know if I would have said that same way, or if I don't know if I still hold that same belief. But I do think that we put people in boxes. So Emily has said this, she's about this, that is who she is, that's how we organize folks. And if they change from that, then I don't know how to be, I don't know what to do anymore because I've already created this image of you. So I don't quite know why it feels so heavy, but it does.
Yeah.
It feels really heavy.
I want to talk about the content creation and being on TikTok while you're in this season of being in these therapeutic practices.
Yeah.
How do you navigate doing what you're doing now as a therapist, but also creating content around being a therapist, but also being like, I also don't see myself here forever. Like, I want to change. I want to transition. I want to shift into another version of myself at some point. How do you do both?
I saw an Instagram post, and I wish I could find it this week, that talked about let's stop aiming for balance and aim instead for integration. And that's really stuck with me because we talk about work-life balance, we talk about friendship, romantic relationship balance, and putting it through this lens of how do these things integrate together, I feel so much more relieved because we're doing balancing. There's always an imbalance, right? But if there's an integration, I'm imagining like a double helix, right? These things weave so naturally with each other. And so I believe that's what I've done with the themes that come up. And this is like the collective probably, but like the themes that come up in therapy come across. I mean, every week it's like I could label a theme that everybody who doesn't know each other are going through. It's amazing how it happens. So there's something about that. I go, well, this is what people are talking about. And so it's what's on my mind. So it's easy for me to share with other people in like a HIPAA compliant,
always
safe way. But it is who I am, right? Like I am someone who's always been creative. There's a part of me that likes helping other people, that wants them to not have all of these secret private thoughts they feel like they can't share. So I felt like therapists who really feel like they can't share who they are should have a model for that. And if I don't care what you think about me, being on TikTok has never hurt my business. It has actually drawn in more aligned clients than I ever have. My TikTok clients, 90% of people find me online from social media. They're people I've been working with for years, right? Because they see me and they go, oh, I resonate with that person. It makes everything really easy. So for a business standpoint, like it's free marketing that works for me. I think it works for me because I show up the way that I do, which starts this like positive, what's it called when you like a positive feedback loop, right? The more I show up myself with questions and authenticity, messiness, not polished all the time, the more it seems to be working for me. So I'm going to keep doing that and telling other people it's okay for them to do that as well.
There's so many reasons why I love that, but going back to that, I hate the word, but authentic. But it's like when you can be in that messiness, because for me as a Capricorn rising Virgo moon, I'm very much like, oh, this is I want to portray a certain image.
Yeah.
And it's always very like, okay, how do I present polished? Well, knowing underneath it all, I'm an absolute mess. 80% of the time. Like, it is a miracle I get anything done. Being a manifesting generator, just like you, we're all over the place. And that is my Achilles heel. I'd rather just have one thing and get it done super well. But that's not my message. That's not my path. And that's okay. And being okay with that messiness and sharing that, it's the permission that it gives people to be like, oh, this is who you are? Great. Then this is who I am. Let's do it.
That's right. And I think that there are the type A to B people that do exist in the world. And I think that's who we see. And that's what is lauded in school or in work, this like very linear path that I think some people do walk. Mm-hmm. We've seen that. So it'd be nice to see, like, are there other people out here that do this a little bit differently than I do, who experience life differently than I do? Mm-hmm. That would be nice. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of what grounds me most of the time when I show up on social media is I want to be as myself, whoever she is that day, as possible. But Emily, that does not mean I will rewatch something. There's stuff in my drafts that I go, I can't post that. Mm-hmm. I can't post that because I do know that that when I wear that outfit and don't have that makeup on, then the views don't do as well. So I'm not rolling out of bed. There's always a curation that I am, which I'm honest about, mm-hmm. I'm curating stuff. Mm-hmm. And also.
Yeah. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
So as you've been on TikTok for a little bit of time, have you noticed anything that like really does not hit? Or dialogue that totally misses the mark?
Yeah. You mentioned your kind of ick with authenticity. Mine is with boundaries. Sorry, I think it's a more nuanced conversation than we just love to say it. We love to say it, and I love to say it, but I don't know. We just talk about it in a way that's so cookie cutter, and you should have them, and I should have them, and what does that mean? And the where I think we miss the mark is in two places. One, I think we have to start with our internal boundaries first. We often go to, this is for you. Hey, mom, my boundary is you can't talk to me like that. Instead of like getting to know, why do I have this wall coming up? Do you know what I mean? Like the difference between like what I'm telling you to do, which is what they say boundaries are. But I just think we're really quick to point out like, nope, I'm not answering my work email because how dare they? Instead of getting to know like, oh, what is my own relationship with my emails? Right? Ooh. Mm-hmm. That's where you start first. Because guess what? People are going to say shit to you. People are going to email you. It is your own job. Like you can't tell people what to do. So boundaries in that regard drives me wild. And acting like, this goes back to the authenticity piece. Acting like boundaries will equal peace all the time. I think boundaries actually also have a risk associated with it. It is not easy. It is not easy to be consistent with boundaries. You can have one. And so I think we missed the mark on talking about how complicated it actually is. Boundaries also change over time. How do we reconcile that within ourselves? How do we communicate that? And I said 2 points, and here I am with the laundry list. Lastly, I have an issue with boundaries in like a hyper individual, conflict averse world where I think it doesn't allow for conflict or dialogue to exist, right? Mm-hmm. Like we can't, this is my boundary that I don't ever feel upset with you. And this is how, because we say boundaries are how I can be in relationship with you. We actually have, I think, a low window of tolerance for being mad at someone, annoyed by them. This is like harm aside, but like, where's the repair? Where's repair? We have boundaries, but we don't talk enough about repair or how to sit. It is taking me years to sit in an uncomfortable conversation because I would rather say, that's my boundary. I'm not having this conversation with you.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Is it boundary or is it avoidance? It's for everyone to decide for themselves. I recommend a therapist to help, but you can find that on, like boundaries just really light me up. Mm-hmm. They're complicated.
Well, and I feel like there's such a huge point of conversation over the past couple of years, at least for me and a lot of my girlfriends, when it comes to dating and relationships, very much in particular. Also with a lot of friendships as well.
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating how everyone works with boundaries totally different, and there's not a clear understanding of them either. And it's like, where's the line between avoidance and boundaries?
And I don't know how often we actually need to communicate them to somebody else. And I might be missing something there. And I'm not an expert at boundaries. However, it seems like the path to explore is that internal boundary. What is my relationship to checking my phone to see if he's texted me? What's my boundary around that? What's my relationship with the email? With how I let somebody show up, I think about my therapy, like my practice policies, accruing a balance because their credit card, they won't put a new one on file or they run late. Like, what's my relationship with that? Start there. I think that's a year's worth of work, And then when we have that understanding, I think it becomes easier to communicate to somebody else. And boundaries can't be like, well, I didn't like what you did. I don't know. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. And I totally agree in the fact that it has to start with yourself before it starts with others too. Because I feel like a lot of the times I hear the word boundary, it's like, oh, well, I have to set a boundary with you because there's a disconnect in some way. And I have to make sure that I protect my peace. And it's like, interesting. And it's like, well, how does it, I think it literally goes back to where we started this full conversation of like, everything has to start with you.
Your body. Yeah, and you.
Rather than everything else that's around. And I mean, this is what I'm learning from you today, is that truly it's like, it's all about you.
It's all about you. It's all about you. And the boundary piece, my final pulpit moment here is it keeps us disconnected. I don't think it does. I don't think it moves us towards that true connection. How great is it to get to a place, and Emily, this is what I've learned this year, to be able to be in conflict with people and to move through that together, not by space, not by taking time away from each other. Like, how are we coming together to work through this? That can't happen if you say, well, my boundaries, I'm not having this conversation because it makes me upset, right? And I'm using a voice, which is probably condescending, but I've said it. There's been meetings I've been in where I'm been livid and I feel it on my arms, right? I'm so mad. And I go, okay, I need to sleep on this. My arms are letting me know I'm angry. Great. They also probably letting me know this is not the time to speak. That's an internal boundary. Emily, this is not the time to share your thoughts and feelings right now. And then how do we come back to the next meeting and say, hey, what happened last week wasn't okay? Can we talk about it? Not, we can never talk about this again, so I am peaceful. Where does that get us? If you want to be in a relationship with people, there's going to be conflict, and we have to grow our capacity to be in conflict. I'm sorry.
And I think with just how the world is going as well, it is making it feel like conflict is harder and more untouchable because it is so vampant.
Yeah.
But I love that, to your point of, if we don't have this conflict also within ourselves and within the people that we can trust within our inner circles, how do we expect to get anything done and get to where we want to be if we're not asking ourselves and other people around us the hard questions?
And this comes back to the authenticity piece, because I think sometimes that gets brought in. This is my boundary because this is who I am. That's so stagnant, right? This is, instead of, you're saying something that's I feel defensive about, I'm going to explore if there is, and be curious, if there are things about what you're saying that are valid. I'm going to explore and be curious about why this is bringing something up so strongly for me, right? And then we'll move forward, not just like calling it a wash. I think that's authentic. It's because I think they get tied in. This is who I am, and this is my boundary. I hope I'm not this person tomorrow. I hope I've grown and learned something. And I hope that for everyone around me, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah. Okay. The last question I have for you, if you could leave anything, one thing that you want to share about, it can be boundaries, being your authentic self, listening to that inner voice. If listeners could hear one thing of maybe where to start their journey or how to come back to their journey of coming back to themselves, what would you have them do?
Can we actually do like a little exercise for it?
Let's do it.
Okay, is that okay?
Yes,
That's the only,
please.
I can't, we've talked about how talking about it doesn't get us there, and I think doing something is the best way for me to experience this. So
Let's do it.
you can close your eyes or turn your eyes down in some sort of way. And I want you to imagine a part of you that shows up really present in your life. And that can be something that feels positive or negative or neutral, just along that path. When you have that part, just let me know. You got it. I want you to imagine what that part looks like if it existed outside of you. It could have a color, it could have a shape, it could be big or small. It could look like someone or a character that you know. And when you have that, and if you feel comfortable, you can share what this part is and what it looks like.
So right now, I'm connecting with how I feel about myself in this season and chapter of life. And it's interesting because it feels very small, but there's a lot of space for it.
Yeah. And when you imagine what it looks like, is it just like...
It's very small. It's almost like a golf ball, but it's got space for like so much more.
Yeah.
But it's very small.
And if you imagine it in relationship to your body right now, inside, outside, where would you place it?
It was right at my heart.
Right at your heart. And that feels good? Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that feel like a part of you that is connected, curious, compassionate?
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And when you notice, like, if there's any other parts of you that show up.
It's interesting when I go deeper, there's some darkness there a little bit.
There's some
It's
darkness
a little shadowy.
A little shadowy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that deeper, like, into your core. Yeah. So we can pause there. Thank your parts for,
Thank you.
Thank you
very
for
much.
showing up. But that's an exercise that I start with, is just naming who's there. Because when you go, that's who's there, then you can say, like, is that me or is that a part of me, right? Who's speaking? That's my little tiny voice who's actually really spacious and wants to grow more. Or like, that's that cloud that's down there, right? So I think starting in, you asked like how to get back to ourselves. I think we have to know who's here to begin with to know what we're getting back to. So I would always start with little parts work.
I love that.
You can do that at home, or with a professional.
Yeah. Oh my God. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I loved where this conversation went today. I feel like I kind of walked in and I was like, I don't really know where we're going to go today, but I'm so glad we got to hit so many of the topics that we got to talk about. And I'm like, oh, we didn't even hit anything that we wanted to hit. And I'm like, and I love this because it leaves so much more space to talk about things at a later time.
That's right. And also that is a mirror of what we were talking about today, is just following what's in front of you. And there was planning, and there was a container that was really great and beautiful and wonderful, and it held us. And also, like, we got to play within it. And so thank you for your time today and having me here.
Of course. So, where can people find you if they want to work with you, if they want to connect with you, all the things?
If you want to find me on TikTok, it's at Emily P. Faith Presents. On Instagram, it's at Emily P. Faith. Sorry, it's not consistent. I'm a messy human. And if you want to work with me as a therapist, you can find me at openhousetherapy.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Truly.